Name confused by Enchanted Nightingale. Chapter 27. Detox. A plate flopped down to the floor. It was paper. Mycroft had refused to give Sherlock a weapon he could use to fight with. The clinic was very private, rumored to be very successful, and worth more than some stars could afford, but Mycroft had not hesitated. The moment Sherlock had regained his senses, the older of the two Holmes siblings had greeted a confused and disoriented Sherlock with a blank, pale face. Sherlock! From his corner, the green-eyed wizard could see the pale form of the younger detective, looking frail and too similar to some dead bodies he had come across in his life. Sherlock, despite everything, had retained brain function because he zeroed in on his brother immediately and with a few blinks of his eyes seemed caught up. Mycroft, no excuses this time. Mycroft's voice had all the warmth of the architect. The wizard noted that the younger man flinched at the tone. As soon as you can be moved, you're heading for the clinic I mentioned last time, Mycroft stated. Sherlock gave a short nod. Speak up, Mycroft curtly ordered sharply. I will, Sherlock replied. I have nothing more to say to you, Mycroft had said and left the door. His assistant stayed long enough to see the hurt and remorse on Sherlock's face before following his boss out of the ward. As soon as Sherlock's door was closed, Mycroft reached for the nearest wall and just stood there, taking deep breaths. For a while he had feared that the usually strong man would collapse. Certainly Mycroft was trembling enough. But then he straightened his back, took another deep breath, and pushed away from the door and continued down the hallway, his assistant following a step behind, ready just in case. That was then. Now Asclepius was witnessing Sherlock suffering from withdrawal symptoms. Mycroft had cleared his afternoon so he could visit his brother. The clinic had only just allowed visitors for the young genius. The visit had gone ugly as soon as the two brothers faced each other, and the wizard had to pull his boss out and call the nurses on Sherlock. The next day was a new visit that ended with Mycroft not even seeing Sherlock. The young genius was locked in the room, asleep after he had been sick for hours. The fever and the shakes had kept him in agony. Mycroft had just looked into the room at his sibling's sleeping figure before motioning to the green-eyed man that they ought to go. The visits happened daily. After that, some days Sherlock was awake but refused to see his brother. Other days he was asleep and Mycroft left without a hint of his presence left, and the wizard was always there to see his boss look at Sherlock with regret. On the second week of those visits, they bumped into Greg Lestrade as the detective was leaving Sherlock's room with a yell. Remember what I told you! At the young genius. Dear Lestrade, Mycroft drawled, and there was a groan from inside the room. Sherlock and I have an agreement, one you need to be aware of, Lestrade told the eldest of the Holmes siblings without preamble. He says clean, then he can work on my cases. I have the right to do a drugs bust to whatever place he's staying. If I find anything, his ass is mine. That means criminal record at back at the clinic and no cases at all. What's more, he agreed. If he stays clean for 4 months and is able to prove it, he can start consulting again. 4 months! He repeated loudly for the genius to hear. That is 4 months' worth of criminals, came Sherlock's loud reply. Stuff it up! Mycroft yelled back. He's all yours, Mycroft said with a small smile on his face. He nodded his head at Greg Lestrade, and the D.I. nodded back before leaving. Go on in, the green-eyed bodyguard told Mycroft. I'll bet he's in a better mood now than the last 2 weeks. Half an hour, then come get me. We're meeting the Prime Minister. The wizard grinned. I'll give you 10 minutes. I can keep my comment civil, Mycroft stated. He won't, came the wizard's retort. Mycroft scowled. You are getting increasingly mouthy. With that, he entered Sherlock's room. 10 minutes later, they were in the car and on their way to the Prime Minister.